ever thought about how elections can change the world? The people who govern our nations shape the global order. That's especially true today of countries neighboring Ukraine and Russia. Good evening, my name is Maia Mazurkewicz and welcome to the Anatomy of Disinformation. Influence operations can have any number of goals, but the main one Russia has been pursuing for years is the destabilization of European countries. So far, they appear to have been successful in Romania and Georgia. So today, we'll take a closer look at the situation in those two nations. Romania's recent presidential campaign was marred by significant foreign interference in support of one candidate. The country's top court annulled the vote, which has now been rescheduled for May. Our first guest joins us to shed light on what's happening in Romania and what might happen next.
Susana Dragomir, researcher, Universitatea Babeș-Bolyai. She is a strategic communication expert and researcher specializing in disinformation and EU policy. As a consultant at EU Spin, she designs communication campaigns, advises political groups, and speaks internationally on disinformation and hybrid threats. Her PhD research at Babeș-Bolyai University focuses on anti-EU narratives in Romania, analyzing religious leaders' susceptibility to disinformation and evaluating EU-Romanian countermeasures.
Susana, welcome and thank you so much for joining us straight from Romania. Romania is in a very peculiar situation right now. You just announced another date for the presidential elections that are going to happen in May. But if you can briefly say what exactly is happening in there, I think many people are wondering.
We are in limbo. This is the situation that I think this is the best word to describe where we are. We are waiting for things to be clarified about the elections. We have a new president, actually sworn in just last week. We are still waiting on the authorities to make some attributions. Me, as an expert working on disinformation, I know that usually when you pinpoint to a state that has influenced your election, you have to take some diplomatic measures against. This hasn't been the case so far. I think it's a bit of a chaotic environment in Romania. Everyone looks at the leadership. The leadership seems to be missing a bit. Of course, after the Munich conference, we are all a bit shaken, but we are hoping for the EU to step also a bit more in and to see where the world is actually going to. And I myself am waiting to have some clarification on the elections, official clarification from the authorities.
And you've been researching disinformation and influence operation during the campaign. And what were particular new things that you've seen there?
What everyone in the community, and I'm not specialized on TikTok, but what I have noticed on TikTok is that the blur between the actors is a bit interesting. So nowadays, we've seen bots coming from Russia, we've seen bots coming from Vietnam, we've seen bots coming from China and commenting in Romanian. Influence operation can be bought. I don't think they are cooperating. You know, you can buy bots anywhere. You can actually auction bots from a hacktivist anywhere. And the official reports of the French government, and also there was a report in Bulgaria, and also the official reports of our secret service, have revealed some links to Sputnik, some links to Russia Today, but there were also some links to hacktivists in Ukraine, even someone in Poland, and someone in South Africa. So basically you have PR agencies, gambling activists, hacktivists involved in our elections. And some of the operation couldn't be linked to anyone, could not be traced to a source of financing, because normally when you identify a disinformation campaign, you go and follow the money. And in some cases, follow the money didn't work.
That's interesting. So what stopped it there?
In my experience, I know that nowadays, because of darknet and because of cryptocurrencies, a lot of influence campaigns are bought from hacktivists and even from cyber criminals on darknet, and you can auction entire disinformation campaign, entire information influence campaign easily on dark web. So nowadays everything is blurred. You cannot do attribution as easily because you never know if it was a state agent, if it was a hacktivist, or it was a guerrilla, organized crime with cyber activists.
So basically, as some years ago, there was the investigation on the Team Jorge, so the company that was dealing with influencing the elections. Right now, you basically can go to the darknet and anyone can buy bots, and you can be undercover. And
yes, and it's not very expensive either.
And from where the money are flowing, are they coming into the normal markets, or is the crypto involved?
It's always crypto on dark web because crypto cannot be traced easily, so it's always crypto.
So sometimes,
and you know that all the dark operations are happening through dark web nowadays.
And you've seen that there was a particularly big influence in Romania during the elections, and that changed as well a lot and influenced the voters.
For sure, say that this is the case because this influenced the voters, because it was a cumul of factors. You have to go to the history of this person, of the candidate, Georgescu, right? He's not a new person for someone who has been studying disinformation in Romania. He appeared in 2016. He was announced by Sputnik already in 2015, 2016, 2017 as a new prime minister of Romania. He is being there. He's being there on groups related to Russian influence in Romania. He's being there in the conservative groups. He's being there in the supranationalist group, far-right groups. It's not a new phenomenon. I don't see Mr. Georgescu is coming from nowhere. He was there in 2020. He was there when our far-right party, our arrived. He's not a Fata Morgana, as you call it in Romania. Like he's not new. He just used something that's very modern in digital marketing, which combines astroturfing, influencer marketing, and a lot of non-authentic behavior. This is what I'm speaking about in bots and trolls.
And exactly, he was using that, and the other candidates were not. So he was faster influencing the people, because many people are saying that he was unknown. You are telling that he was known in the certain groups at least. But he, during the campaign, managed to make a big shift.
We call it grassroots movements, right? This kind of campaigning. He had a lot of latent accounts on Twitter, on TikTok that were activated recently. So he had over 25,000 TikTok accounts activated during the campaign. And then he had a lot of bots and trolls involved. They were, our secret internal service has discovered 25,000 of them, basically belonging to one IP computer. This is not an authentic behavior. This is not one user, an authentic user of TikTok. This has been a coordinated campaign. Digital marketers do that, but you can do it with products because the ads are basically transparent. You are not allowed to do political ads on TikTok. And basically, he has been using a lot of political masked ads through influencers, and he has been declaring zero financing for his campaign. This is the main problem. The main problem that you cannot do an illegal campaign saying that you had zero expenses when you paid influencers with thousands of euros, when you paid trolls and bots coming from PR agencies all over, and you trace it to some gamble people in, for instance, in Poland, and to some activists in Ukraine. Where does the money come from? This is the traces that our services have been able to identify. And then some other organization went even further and identified more. But then it remains. Was this a proper campaign? Was this a transparent campaign? No, the money was declared zero. He even had posters on which there was no electoral identification. Beyond all this TikTok campaign, there was also an offline campaign that was very active. We had leaflets spread through churches and through monks even, which was a very odd thing. And we all know, involved in anti-Russia disinformation in Romania, that there are some Orthodox networks being exploited by Russian influence in Romania. And we have a lot of proxies, which were also very mobilized in this campaign.
So it was basically putting all of the tactics that are known and unknown, that are often used in the marketing, into the one campaign, but then there's no transparency, and it's support coming from the different countries that you already can target, and some in the darknet where you actually can't at all. And one more last sentence from you. What do we do? Like, if you would have a say right now at the European Commission, what would you do?
Wake up. I said it in November. I was in Poland at the conference just after the election, and I said, we have to wake up. We were very naive. You cannot put all your trust in other actors. You have to wake up yourself. You have to protect your space. You have to protect your cyberspace. You have to protect your military space. In the end, we are weak. The world is repositioning. The spheres of influence are redefining, and we are in the middle. And we don't show proper leadership. We speak on too many voices as the EU. You have 3, 4, 5 persons which speak on behalf of the EU. Let's speak on a unified voice. Let's try to protect our democracy. Weaponizing means weaponizing. It's time to weaponize, maybe.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Late last year, Romania fell prey to an attack of the clones. And no, George Lucas wasn't involved. Instead, fake TikTok accounts dedicated to Russia-loving presidential candidate Colin Georgescu were seeded with Russian money and germinated across Romania's infosphere.
How did Russia influence the course of the now annulled presidential election in Romania?
The declassified intelligence reports revealed that Russian disinformation networks weaponized social media networks, especially TikTok, to distort public discourse and to leverage its algorithms to amplify narratives supporting a candidate with pro-Russian beliefs. What we know from the reports is that in the days leading up to the election, around 3 million euros per day were used to support the entire disinformation operation. And we actually observed the proliferation of what we call murky accounts, political accounts that have inauthentic identity that impersonated the candidate or the campaign photo or the campaign logo. And these accounts appeared overnight and reached a large number of followers in 48 hours. We're talking about reach of 50,000 followers in a day. This is a clear sign of coordinated inauthentic behavior. Viewers should know that TikTok's official policies state that the platform doesn't allow any political content to feature in advertising. But by examining TikTok's commercial content library, we discovered that that was breached in a way that illegal ads promoting the candidate were targeting the diaspora, and collectively the ads reached about 300,000 voters in EU and UK. TikTok has a legal responsibility under EU regulation, the Digital Services Act, to identify and mitigate systemic risks in the EU. And in Romania's case, TikTok's enforcement of those laws and of its policies were basically inadequate. The European Commission also published election-related standards in that way that all platforms, not only TikTok, should comply in order to avoid investigations and fines, for example. To be more specific, the impact of the EU regulation and the Digital Services Act across EU depends also a lot on the work of national digital services coordinators. And although we haven't yet looked into the Romanian elections coming in May, we could see that the same tactics will be unfortunately employed.
Georgia held general elections late last year. Now the situation in the country is far from stable, with opposition members facing violence and jail sentences. How are disinformation and influence contributing to the unrest? We'll talk about that and more with our next guest.
Givi Gigitashvili, Research Associate at Atlantic Council's DFRLab. He investigates influence operations, social media manipulation, and computational propaganda campaigns in Eastern European and South Caucasus countries. He holds a bachelor's degree in social science from Ivana Javahishvili Tbilisi State University, a master's degree in EU-Russia studies from the University of Tartu, and a postgraduate diploma in strategic communications from King's College London.
Givi, thank you so much for coming. And today we're going to be mostly focusing on Georgia. And it seems to me that what Russia was planning to do for them since many years was to bring chaos and destabilize different countries. And isn't it working in Georgia now?
Yes, absolutely. I would say that what we have been observing in Georgia for almost 2 years now is quite alarming, and also it contains very clear signs of Russia's meddling. The problem here is that in general, when open source investigators and researchers are trying to uncover technical evidence of, let's say, connections between Georgian government, for instance, and with Russia, it's very difficult. The reason here is that there are many domestic proxies who are actually working in the country, and Russia is acting indirectly with their help. Recently, of course, there was a lot of conversations about Romania and Romanian elections. Situation is more or less similar in a sense that the outcomes of elections is under question, and there will be new elections in Romania. And in Georgia, people have been demanding new elections, but so far it doesn't look like that Georgian government, or let's say the Georgian dream, which is considered as a legitimate government, is planning to schedule new elections. The problem here is that in case of Romania, when these certain documents were declassified, it became obvious that foreign meddling really managed to change the outcomes. And when it comes to Georgia, again, because of the fact that domestic proxies are so influential, this FIMI framework is not very efficient to, let's say, investigate or decontextualize this kind of meddling, simply because Russia as a foreign interference threat has evolved into domestic threat. And unfortunately, these domestic sources are more influential, and their narratives have bigger impact simply because they are seen as more credible than narratives that are coming from outside.
So Russia is basically financing the domestic proxies, and already they are spreading the disinformation, right?
Well, to be honest, domestic proxies are so rich at this stage that I don't think they necessarily need foreign funding. But what we can see explicitly is that domestic proxies, and at the first place, Georgian government has been serving to Russian interests in the sense that they are derailing Georgia's integration into the West. They completely stopped this integration process. They are trying to enter into warfare with all the political allies they have in the West, and everything is happening in the context of occupation of Georgian land by Russia. When 20% of our territories are occupied, pro-Russian regime is actually like telling everyone they don't need their support, meaning the US, which is a strategic partner, or European Union. So basically, this is a very good example for Russia also, and a success story how openly pro-Western country is taken back to Russia's orbit. And something that people do not really understand outside of Georgia is that how comes that Georgian people are pro-Western and over 80% support Georgia's integration, but at the same time they have pro-Russian government. So this is because of disinformation, and this is because of information manipulations, which are quite efficient and which are coming from Georgian government mostly.
And I think that those are important words, because J.D. Vance recently has said that that's democracy, right? And whoever wins. But exactly when it's starting to be visible that the influence is actually something that is influencing the state of the country.
I would say that, again, brainwashing really works, and currently Georgian government relies on two things. One is their information manipulation campaigns, and then really big TV channels that they control, and which basically constantly tries to convince people that Georgia is being attacked by foreign actors, and that West and the European Union are trying to organize revolutions in Georgia. And at the same time, when people are protesting against the government, they have very strong police vertical, which uses violence against protesters, and they are trying to violently disperse all this dissent that they see in Tbilisi streets. A lot
of opposition leaders are in jail or been recently attacked as well?
I would say, like, for instance, this morning, the former president of Georgia, Maia Mazurkewicz, was attacked in the airport when she returned back from Munich Security Conference. Yesterday, former Prime Minister of Georgia, Givi Gigitashvili, was attacked, and some people threw them the eggs right in the airport after they came from Munich Security Conference. So physical violence is a norm already in Georgia, unfortunately, and it is also very sad that Georgian government uses these kind of tactics against opposition leaders. And we are talking about the former president and former prime minister who are attacked in the airport. This is a public space which needs to be protected, yeah? But yeah, this is the reality currently.
And they were attacked by a random person, or?
Yeah, I mean, these people are attacked by certain individuals who are, as it seems, they are getting money from political actors to undertake these kind of activities against political leaders and oppositions.
Okay, Givi, and what are the similarities and differences in between Romania and Georgia, because they both are in the chaos situation right now?
Yeah. So geopolitically, both countries are very important in a sense that in case of Romania, it's a main gateway for Western aid to Ukraine, and in case of Georgia, as I mentioned, it's a recent, like a really successful case for Russia, how country can be returned back to its orbit. But when it comes to election results specifically, one thing we can say is that Russia achieved some sort of success in both countries, in a sense that when Constitutional Court of Romania nullified election results, it actually showed to the population that elections can be vulnerable to external threats, and foreign actors, malign actors, can actually manage and achieve to undermine election integrity by changing the outcome.
Very important case for the whole community of people countering disinformation.
Indeed. And when it comes to Georgia, again, Georgian dream continues to rule the country. They are not planning to schedule new elections, or it's still quite a long game, in a sense that people are protesting for more than 2 months now. I don't think that there is any specific important achievement in this process, but I really hope there will be achievement. But still, they are becoming, they after winning elections, they stopped accession talks with the European Union, so they almost put an end to this integration until they are in power. And this is what Russia wants in both countries, right? To show to people that actually Kremlin is a significant player which can actually undermine political processes inside their countries.
Thank you so much, Givi. I think it very much shows that it's not only something that we've been calling for many years, but that actually is happening, and TTPs of Russia are working.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's now see how bad actors use targeted content to spread disinformation.
How is spreading targeted content used in disinformation? Spreading targeted content is a tactic where disinformation actors create tailored messages designed to resonate with a specific audience's worldview, beliefs, or interests. By carefully crafting content that aligns with the target group's values, as though online content or advertising, these actors gain insider status and build trust within the community. Over time, this approach allows them to grow an online following and establish credibility, making future disinformation efforts more effective and leveraging this perception for political or social gains.
For us, humans, uncertainty is one of the most uncomfortable states we can experience. And nowadays, it seems like we are living in a constant state of uncertainty. With ongoing attacks on democracy and free elections, we must start to wonder where the world is heading. The Romanian presidential campaign is an interesting example of the new tactics being used to influence elections. It's worth keeping that in mind when you scroll through your social media feeds to relax. As always, the most important thing is to keep calm and think deeply.